Welcome back to Gear and a Beer, where I talk about homebrew gear while drinking a homebrewed beer. This week, we're drinking my Session Stout, and we're talking about the Tilt Hydrometer. As the name suggests, the Tilt Hydrometer measures the gravity of your wort or beer, but it does so in a specific way. Before we get too far with this review, I do want to say that I am not affiliated in any way with Tilt, and I did not get this for free. In fact, I didn't even buy it new, I bought it secondhand. So just want to get that out of the way. This is my opinion. I hope that you will watch this video, watch some other videos, check out some articles online, and formulate your own opinion. You take this little contraption, you drop it into your fermenter, and it's not gonna stand perfectly straight up. It's gonna be tilted a little bit, hence the name. The degree to which it tilts tells the computer what the gravity is of your beer, or at least an estimate of the gravity. For me, I like to use it just to estimate, and I'm taking regular gravity readings with my hydrometer along the way as well, just to compare. I definitely wouldn't just rely on using something like this or a CO2 bubble counter or any of those sorts of machines. I think the best way to know the actual gravity of your beer is to measure it with a hydrometer. With that, let's hop on the laptop and check out some of the specs listed by Tilt. Okay, so I'm here on the Tilt website, and there are just a couple of figures that I want to look at down here at the bottom. Okay, so Tilt is saying that the specific gravity is accurate within plus or minus 0.002. So that means the Tilt hydrometer could tell you that you have a gravity of, let's say, 1040, and in fact, your gravity is 1042. I would say that's pretty close to what I've seen, what my experience has been using the Tilt. I would maybe go a couple points higher than that, maybe 0.004. But still, no matter what, this is providing an estimate. So I think that's pretty good. And even if it's 0.004, not too bad. And also that's only within the range of 0.990 to 1.120, which for me is certainly fine. I'm not brewing anything larger than 1120, that's pretty crazy. And my beers are definitely not getting drier than 1, I would say. This also says that the thermometer is accurate within plus or minus 1 degree Fahrenheit, or plus or minus half a degree in Celsius. I would say that that's probably pretty close. There really isn't a way for me to test this when I'm fermenting. Typically, I'm not popping my fermenter open to measure the temperature, and I don't always have a thermo well in there. So I would just take their word for that. Your fridge is gonna, honestly, whatever you're using to control your fermentation temperature is probably gonna vary a little bit more than that. I think my Inkbird can maybe hold 1 degree, but it's usually about 2 degrees is what I see on there. So that's like the facts and figures. Let's get this laptop out of the way, and we'll talk about a couple more little details of this guy. Okay, so I do like the small form factor of the Tilt. I don't know if you know it, but this is actually kind of a successor to an open source tool called the iSpindle. The iSpindle, though, is much larger from what I understand. I've never personally used one, but I do like the small form factor of this. The battery that's in here, they say is gonna last between 12 and 24 months, depending on how much you use it. And you can see on here that there is no display. So the way that you're actually gonna receive your reading is through your smartphone. So you just download a quick app. It's available on iOS, it's available on Android, whatever you're using. You can use it on a tablet, you can use it on your phone. I do like that it's pinging those results to your phone, so I'm not having to look in my fermenter, I'm not having to screw around with anything within my fermentation temperature. I simply walk up to it and connect my phone, and I can read the gravity. Now, I'll show a little bit of what it looks like to connect to it on your phone here. Okay, so I've connected to the device and you can see that it's giving me the gravity. It's not an accurate gravity because it's not in liquid, obviously, and it's standing straight up. But you can see generally this is where the gravity is displayed. That's where the temperature is displayed. And if I click that cog on the side, I can get to the settings of the device. So here you have a space to name your brew. You can enter your email address. This is used so that they can send you a link to the cloud file that's created, which gets me to the next thing is you can either use device logging or the cloud logging, and both of those are totally fine. I think you can even use both of those at the same time, so you kind of have a little bit of a backup. And you just set all of your options here. You can do change the logging interval. That's really not applicable to my situation because I'm just walking up to the fermentation. I don't have my device actually mounted there. So I've just left it at this 480 minutes, no big deal. But you can customize this information as much as you want. Down here towards the bottom, you also see the options to calibrate, which is super easy. Drop this thing in a bucket of water. It has to be a certain amount of water, so I would use like a bucket of water rather than a glass of water so that it's tilting appropriately, and then just press calibrate, and same for the temperature down here. Once you know the actual temperature, then you can just calibrate it there as well. So I think this app, for the most part, it does what it needs to do. But I would say that we're at this point, at least I'm used to using more advanced apps. And this basic interface, while it does what it needs to do, there's no wow factor. So, take that for what it is. They're just giving you the bare bones to do the job of fermentation, and there's really nothing extra. For example, I think that they could put the cloud files and all of that stuff right there in the app so that you can access that very easily, maybe even showing the graphs that are created right there on the app. But instead they're choosing to use Google Sheets to do that. So that data is actually passed over to a Google Sheets template, and that's what you access. That's what you view, those cool little diagrams that are created, the graphs, the charts, and you can actually see over time, what the temperature has done and what the gravity has done throughout your fermentation, which is pretty cool. I'll caveat that with, of course, those are estimates. So like I mentioned before, I think it's important that you continue to take regular gravity readings along the way. I think you can take a few less when you're using a device like this, but I don't think that it completely replaces the need to use a hydrometer. So let's get to the part of my general opinion of this device. I think that there is obviously a place for it in my brewery, and the reason for that is because it takes some of the pressure off of doing regular gravity readings, and in cases where I might let a ferment go an extra 3-4 days, this kind of takes the guesswork out of that. So when it's done, and I typically then move on to the next step in the process. That said, I don't think I would have paid the full sticker price for this device just for that, little bit of convenience. I don't think it'd be worth it for me. Secondhand, of course. I got this for about half of the regular retail price, and right there, it's perfect for me. And so now I have 2 of these in the brewery, and I've been using them regularly. With that out of the way, let's dive into this Session Stout. It's a brown, really dark brown, kind of translucent brown, fairly clear, not too murky. The head seems to be dissipating pretty quickly, but I don't know if you can see it. There's quite a bit of carbonation coming up from the bottom there. And let's go in for a nose. Whew. So I get lots of roast on this one, and the coffee is what's really hitting me. I hit this with, let's see, espresso beans, whole beans, and I pulled, I think, 4 espresso shots from my espresso maker and put all of that in there. I'm also getting some cacao, and that's because I actually used cacao in this beer, but I didn't put the cacao right in. I was hearing a little bit of warnings that you don't want to put too much cacao in because it's obviously fatty and can kill your head. I think it's done that anyways. I filled a vacuum sealer bag with cacao nibs, and then I put a little bit of vodka in there, just enough to kind of put everything in suspension. And then I sealed that bag up, put it into a hot water bath, and heated that up to about 100 degrees, and I left it there for about an hour, maybe 2 hours. When that was done and all cooled back down, I snipped the little corner of that bag and I poured just the liquid into the keg, directly into the serving keg. And so nothing was fermented in it, and I didn't even put the cacao nibs themselves in here. But that alcohol must have kind of taken some of the fat with it, and that fat, I think, is what has killed my head. And who knows, maybe some carbonation issues as well. Let's see. No, so that's nice carbonation on this beer. The head has got to be from that fat from the cacao nibs getting in there. I've heard that that's pretty common. Beyond that, I'm getting a nice bold body. So it's fairly thick. It's not as thick as you might expect. There's no syrupy kind of thing. It's really kind of nice and dry, but has a medium to kind of big body on it. Now let's talk about the flavors. A lot of what I'm tasting here is the same sort of things that are in the aroma. It has a really pronounced roast, and I think it's complemented or maybe rounded out by the coffee that I added. I don't remember the brand or the type of coffee that I added in here. But typically I'm drinking specialty coffee. So this is like a local specialty coffee that's roasted fairly dark, not all the way to the espresso darkness, but beyond medium, I would say. And that's really kind of playing well with the roast, I think. So between the coffee beans, the espresso shots, and the roasted grains that are in this, it's a nice round roasted, really quite nice flavor. Secondary flavors definitely include chocolate, I would say. Actually, let's check out Beersmith and just see exactly what's in this thing, because it's been a little while. Okay, so this beer was made with Maris Otter mostly, so 75% Maris Otter, 7.5% flaked oats, about 5.5% chocolate malt, 3.8% roasted barley, 3.8% victory malt, 1.9% black patent malt, and this is the thing I forgot, there's molasses in here. So actually 1.9% of the total fermentable sugars come from molasses. I don't particularly taste the molasses. I'm not sure I would even know what I'm looking for when tasting molasses, but I don't have any like dark astringent kind of flavors. Nothing like honey-like even. So I'm gonna say I'm not tasting any molasses in here. But it could be just kind of blending in with some other things. Let's see. I also added 2 cinnamon sticks at 5 minutes, 2 ounces of cacao nibs, or cocoa nibs, however that's said. I've got 1 ounce of coffee, so whole bean coffee, also at cold crash, and then 4 chilled espresso shots at packaging. So that's all the adjuncts that I put in here. I'm not getting the cinnamon a whole lot, but now that I think about it, there is a little bit of like a spice aroma on the nose. I don't think I would pick that out if I wasn't looking at the recipe right here, but you know, now that I know it's in there, at least my mind is trying to trick me into thinking that I know it's there. Overall, I think this beer is pretty great. I canned this up off of the keg just to make enough room for another beer that I had coming in. And the can is held up really great. So I'm not detecting any diacetyl or any kind of off flavors. No oxidation issues from the can, so everything was nicely sealed. And yeah, I'm really stoked on this beer. I think if I brewed it again, I would change a couple things. So play around with the oats, probably add some wheat and dextrin malt. If you like this video, let me know in the comments. This is my first time kind of filming one like this. If you can't tell, I'm actually recording everything right now live here in my office. So if you liked it, let me know in the comments. Consider subscribing so you don't miss the next one, and I'll see you again soon.